Okay, hey everyone. Oh, let me see. Can everyone see? Let me see if I can. Sorry for the delay. There was some technical issues, but I think everything is good now. Can everyone see everything in here? Okay. All right, great. Okay, so I'll go ahead and add the person. All right, Emily, I just added you on.
Hi.
Hello. Sorry, what did you say?
How's everyone doing today?
Oh, yeah, how's everyone? The people that are here.
Yeah, we already got some questions in the Ask a Question tab, which is great, as well as the compiled list from before. So, should have plenty to go over today.
All right, great. Yeah, so today we're just doing like a student ask me anything. So any like questions you have for us, because we've taken the class and we sort of know we've taken the test as well. Help you guys out with any other question that you may have. So that's really the purpose of this stream today.
Yeah, anything that you want to ask, whether it's about Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, a unit that hasn't happened, or just in general about psychology, the exam, AP, etc., and we'll be here to help you.
Yeah, or just maybe like studying tips if that's something that you're struggling with. Really anything like that.
Great.
So yeah, and don't forget. Oh, sorry, what are you?
No, you go ahead.
Are you sure? Okay. And don't forget to follow at ThinkFileable on Twitter, Instagram, and then subscribe on YouTube.
Yeah, and next week we already have a few streams planned, or next week, the following weeks, etc. Next week we have auditory sensations and perception at 8 p.m. on the 28th. All of these times are Eastern Standard as well, by the way. Then we have some Unit 3 free response practice hosted by hosted by on the 29th at 8 p.m. And then at 3 p.m. EST on the 3rd of November, we have classical conditioning, which is with Mary Valdez. And now we can move into the stream itself.
Yeah, so stay tuned. There's a lot of AP Psych streams happening, so be on the lookout. Make sure you're subscribed on the email to get emails when people are streaming and when there's new streams coming soon.
Yeah, so now let's jump right into the stream.
In the stream.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. You can go ahead. Sorry.
Starting off, we have some just brief introductions, which we've kind of gone over. Then we have some note-related frequently asked questions, and then we have the Q&A session. But we might actually move the... What do you think about moving the note-related section back? Because somebody wants to learn about the anatomy of an eye, which we have slides prepared for, but that's like afterwards.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, so let's just head to the color theory slides. Is there anything specific that you guys are looking to know about the eye? We have a few slides on color theory, but if there's anything that you need further clarified, just let us know and we'd be happy to answer your questions. Okay, so starting off with color theory. Okay. So with color theory, there's rods and cones in the eyes that are necessary for perceiving colors and then sending that information to the brain to be processed. There's different types of processing, but we can go further in depth about that if somebody needs it. And next we have, it's taking a second to load. So the Young-Helmholtz trichromatic theory, this is receptors, and receptors are kind of comparable to, if you've taken computer science at all, like RGB sliders. Colorblind people lack one or more receptors, and there's 3, which are red, green, and blue. You can kind of think of it as, we have this diagram, it's like a Venn diagram of colors over the typical color wheel. And people who are colorblind are missing one or more of these, so their color vision is altered as a result, which is ultimately their perception. And then we have like a little bit more about color theory on the next slide, which we actually have this really fun looking, not experiment, but optical illusion on it. So this is the opponent process theory. Perception of color is based off of the opposite, like the following oppositional pairs. So there is red and green, of course, blue and yellow, and then black and white. And if you note, if this helps you remember, if you've taken an art class and you've seen a color wheel, you know, like red and green are opposites, and then blue and yellow are also opposites on the color spectrum. Oh, wait. No, yellow and purple, sorry. So we have a picture of the American flag here. So as you can see, it's like, we've got the yellow, we've got the black, we've got the green. It's like the complete opposite of what a typical American flag would look like. It's just inverted. So look at the center of the flag for about 10 seconds and then just look away. There's a little white dot that you can focus on and then just like look at a blank wall. And then afterwards, just tell us what you see.
I'm
I'm gonna do it myself again because it's really interesting every time.
I'm gonna do this right now.
Oh yeah, I've done this so many times, but it's just so interesting, no matter how many times.
And there it is. It's red and white and blue.
Yeah. It's extremely interesting. Ooh.
I saw the actual flag too. Yeah, it's crazy because you see it here and it's like green and black, and you look at the wall, it's like actual in real colors.
Yeah, and that's just an example of the opponent process theory. You've probably seen the flag a lot like this, or you at least will if you're going into that unit as it is. But it's just a great example overall, just because it shows off all three of the oppositional pairs. Now we can backtrack and head to the notes.
I'm just curious, what unit are you guys in right now in your psychology class? Just trying to see where you guys are at.
Sensation and perception? Okay. See, it's hard with psychology because a lot of it can be taught in a bunch of different orders, so it's just really hard to align.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah, sensation and perception.
Okay, so you say go back to the note-taking slides.
Yeah, unless there are any further questions about the eye.
All right, so are there any further questions? Are you guys ready to go to note-taking strategies?
And then after that, we can get into more questions. If anybody else has questions to propose, just pop them in the chat or put them in Ask a Question, and we'll answer them the best we can.
Yeah, and if no one really has any at the moment, we have some at the end. Some just general, frequently asked questions that people. Okay, so no one said they were confused about this, so I'll go to the note-taking slides.
Okay. You want to present about the notes?
Which part? Sure, I can do this slide.
Oh, I'll do the what not to do.
Okay, sure.
That's the one.
So here we're just going to talk about the best way to format notes and how thorough notes should be and how often to review notes. So for the first one, the best way to format notes, we want to go over some different types of organization strategies because different people take notes different ways, and some ways are better for me than others. Like some people, I'm like, I cannot learn from that. And other ways, I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. I want to do that. That's a good way to do it. So we have some different strategies for different types of people, whatever you like, because different strategies will, be attractive to different types of people. And then for the second one, how thorough should notes be? Well, okay, so I'm gonna ask you guys, when you guys take notes and your teacher's lecturing, do you take notes word from word, or do you paraphrase like from the board?
And then another question, do you guys handwrite your notes or do you type your notes? Just to get a good idea for.
And in my school, for psych, we were not allowed to type our notes.
Oh, really?
Yes, because we would have open note quizzes from the different units, and then we were only allowed to handwrite all of our notes, and they were like 15 pages with all this information.
Oh no.
The reason why we were supposed to handwrite them is because he said my teacher said there's a study that proves that handwriting, you actually retain more information than typing. Apparently.
That's true.
So that's why he had us handwrite all of our notes.
And we actually have some more information about that on the next slide with the what not to do example.
Yeah, so do you guys have any answers for the other question? I said, do you write word for word or do you paraphrase? Like if you're being like doing a lesson or a textbook, anything. Just want to see where you guys are at with note taking.
Handwritten paraphrase? Okay.
That's usually that's me. Some people will write word for like the definition textbook word for word, everything word for word. I don't know. I benefit off of paraphrasing because if I know the general concept, I can rewrite it in my own words, so I can remember it in my own way. But some people say that writing word for word helps them to know how it should be, like the exact definition, so they don't mix it up or anything. But I think paraphrasing it helps me because I get like the general understanding and I can put it in my own words and help myself remember it my own way. So I definitely paraphrase.
Has to fill in the blanks a lot.
I'm jealous. Filling the blank notes, that's insane.
I love those.
That is so lucky. Literally, my teacher would just put them on the board, and we had to write really fast because they didn't talk too fast, but still, like they would go through them pretty quickly sometimes.
Yeah, your teacher is the MVP. Let's see. Putting it into your words helps your memory more for you.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That works. Yeah.
That's why I like paraphrase too.
Let's see.
And I switch between paraphrasing and copying. We'll see. Yeah, copying. Yeah. I guess that would help for like harder concepts and harder theories to make sure you have word for word. But yeah, I understand when copying would be necessary as well. So I can see both ways. Okay. So, and for the last part, how often should I review my notes? I'm still trying to figure out which method works better for me. Okay. That's okay. It's definitely a learning process, taking an AP class or any class in general where you have to take notes. Like you definitely have to learn what works for you. It took me a minute to figure out things that work for me. But now that I know, yeah, I mean, I feel like I got
constantly evolving.
Yeah, I feel like I got to the point where I kind of know what works for me best, but I'm still learning new techniques. But I'm at a point where I'm like, okay, I know what definitely doesn't work for me. As far as taking.
Knowing yourself is the most important thing when trying to figure out strategies, but there are a few like overall things that apply to most people, if not like the 99% of people.
Exactly. And for the last bullet, how often should I review my notes? Well, I'm going to ask you guys again, how often do you review your notes? Like after a lecture, do you look at your notes immediately after school?
Please don't cram.
Or do you look the day before the test to look at all your cited notes? Oh man, let me look at my notes now. So what do you guys do? Are you crammers? Do you go every day and look at your notes? You break it up in pieces? How often do you review your notes from class?
The class before psych.
Okay, I mean that's better than like the night before a test. I guess you're still getting because like each day before the class, you're looking at something. So I guess that's not that bad.
Yeah.
That's not a bad strategy at all.
Depends on whether the subject clicks with you or not. What kind of subjects click with you? Have you found out, like, do you do better with models or just straight up concepts and terminology? That's another good question.
What clicks me? That is so true. That is so true. Especially like for like physics or something. If I like crammed, I would definitely not do well on the test.
Oh yeah.
Every subject is different, I guess. But also psych, because psych is a lot of information. Even though some of the concepts are better to understand than maybe physics, it's still like a lot of information. At least in my class, like the tests, or majority, because the AP class will be a lot of information at once. So it's still going to be a little challenging to cram. All right, so cool. Thanks for all the input.
Oh,
wow, your teacher does so. First, you get fill in blanks, and then you get uploads. That is so nice.
Wow, teacher of the year.
Yeah, that is amazing.
Study things like ESP.
Oh, that's cool. Because arts, but I click. See, yeah, I love it when I find connections to academics or like subjects where it connects to me like in my personal life. Then I just love it even more because or if I didn't like the subject at first, but then I see like how it connects to me in my personal life, then I just already because I have that connection, I just feel better about the subject. I'm like, okay.
And it's so refreshing too. Just kind of get away from that for a while.
Yeah. So that's cool that you have something to relate to within the subject. That's nice. All right. So is this everything for this slide? Yeah, I think we answered all 3 of the questions.
Yep.
We'll go to the next one.
If not, then I'll start talking about what not to do with your notes, otherwise also known as what my notes looked like for the first half of the year. So you can notice, like off the start, it's my typed notes. There have been numerous studies that prove that handwriting is better for retention overall. I still type my notes, but that's just based off of who you are. Statistically, it's better, but you have to find what works for you. Then bullet point number 1 is a piece of information you already know. Don't waste time writing down stuff that you already know. There's no point.
I'm so guilty of that. I'm guilty.
I know, everyone is. Then we have a very, 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 you get the idea, unnecessarily detailed information directly copied from the book. We talked about how sometimes just copying works better for certain things or certain people, but overall, you shouldn't just be writing word for word from the book or word for word from the lecture. That's just really time-consuming, and overall, there's better ways that you can spend your time studying. Next, we have some information without examples or that have a description too vague to understand. If you have a model-based concept, you better have graphics in there. You shouldn't write out how the model works in words unless you have an example of both. It's important to be able to make that connection. And then we have disorganized and unlabeled notes that make it difficult to identify the content area. If you know that you got, let's say you got an A in one subject area, let's say you got an A in sensations and perceptions, but you get a C in learning. You're going to want to go back and learn that content from the learning unit more than anything, at least more than these sensations and perceptions. And it's really hard to identify what goes where when you don't have headings and just kind of labels on your notes. And then, once again, going back to what we said before, a model or graph-based content without a picture attached. Please, the AP test will use a lot of models. Maybe not as much as other tests, but it's still really important to be able to visualize it.
Yeah, that's so true, because also, I don't know if there's different types of learners, but I'm definitely a visual learner. So just having that image or concept graphed out will help me so much, because I can actually see how the concept is being applied, or with in an image or anything, that helps out a lot. So sometimes if it's not clicking for you, try to make a model or graph-based concept, because then it might click for you, because then you can actually see how it's being applied. So that's very good advice.
Yeah, and now we can move on to what to do on a lighter note.
Okay, so on the left-hand side, we have the Cornell notes. This is what I actually use for my psych class. My teacher would give us these packet templates of Cornell notes. And how the Cornell notes are basically organized is that there's 2 columns. And on the left-hand column, you have the top would be called concepts or keywords, as we see here. And then on the right-hand side, you write your notes. So I think, I'm sorry, my voice is kind of bad because I was recovering from an illness, but I think, sorry, I'm actually getting some water.
Oh, okay. I'll take over. So the Cornell notes, like she was talking about before, I actually don't have a lot of experience working with Cornell. I always use the outline method instead. It's just a lot simpler to use. What outline do you guys use if you use either of these? And if not, then what do you use alternatively? Cornell is kind of like the 2-column, as you can see. It's just like a little chemistry example.
I think I'm better. I think I'm okay. That was really bad. Okay, what I was going to say is that it's really helpful for classes like psychology, because there's a lot of concepts and definitions. So you can put those on the left-hand side and they explain them on the right-hand side, so it's organized. Instead of just doing bullets, and make it disorganized. So having the separate columns really helps out a lot.
Yeah. Oh, are you okay now?
I'll be back again.
Oh, the mapping method, is that the one with all the circles, and is it like the mind map kind of thing? Let's see, bullet points, headings, and paraphrasing. Yeah, that sounds like what I do. Oh yeah, the mind map is another good one. I don't have a visual of it, but it's just trying to see how all of the ideas connect. Like you have one big idea in the center, and then you might have some sub ideas like branching off, and then additional information about all of those. That's a pretty good method. I've never personally used it, but it's a ton of fun. Oh, and she has control, so once we get back, we can start getting into all the details with the AMA. Does anybody else have questions so far?
Yo, I'm so sorry, guys. I have been fine all day. I just having a coffee attack now. I'm so sorry for that. But yeah, so did you go over the outline method too?
Yeah. And we have a question in the questions tab. Could we somehow lead to an offset and allow for REM sleep to occur when it comes to rare sleep conditions? Sleep. I'm still trying to figure this out as someone with insomnia. Oh. Let's see. What do you mean by lead to an offset? Are you talking about like purposely dividing up the time so that it's however long of REM sleep, then you wake up, and then you just time it out so it lines up every time? Is that what you're trying to say? Walk through the different stages of sleep. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Give me 1 second here. Just writing that down. And do we have any other questions as well? Because we can get some more in the questions tab and just answer them while we're working through this. We don't have a visual for this, but if you need one, then just let us know and we can help you out there. There are 4 stages of sleep. There's non-REM, which is NREM, and then REM itself. And, oh, this would be where a graph really comes in handy. In the meantime, while I'm like trying to think of how to explain this without the graph, would you like to answer some of the questions that are on the list? Oh, she's gone. Okay, well, in that case, then it's like, if you think of it on a graph, it's like the time that you spend sleeping, which is up to 8 hours is the most that people should get unless you're growing and developing. And then on the y-axis is like the stages of sleep, and then you can visualize it as the brain's activity through the sleep cycle. Oh, hey, welcome back.
Sorry, I had another coffee attack.
Oh, that's okay. Do you want to start answering some questions while I pull up a visual for the sleep cycle?
Sure. Okay. So the frequently asked questions?
Yeah, or just anything that like pops up in the questions tab.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go into the Q&A or the AMA. So if you have any questions, put them in the question tab or put them in the chat. And the next couple of slides, I'm going to go over some frequently asked questions that we get from the psychology team. So I'm just going to go over those. But if you have any specific questions, just put them down in the chat or in the question tab. Okay, so first, what did you think about the AP test? Well, personally, I thought it was, when I took the test, I had studied and I was prepared. So I had a neutral feeling. I mean, was I nervous? I mean, not really, because I knew I had prepared for it. So I knew there wasn't going to be anything that would surprise me on the exam. So that's what I thought about it. I did think, sorry.
Oh, good.
Was there any unit I had wished I studied more? Yes. I don't think you got to it yet, but it's like with the monocular and binocular cues there were some multiple choice questions on the AP test about the topic from that unit, and I did not study that as much, so that kind of messed me up a little. That's why I'm like, make sure you know everything, because things will come up and sneak on you, and you'd be like, man, I remember that, but not really. I even did flashcards and everything, and I studied that, but I just got confused. So make sure you are crystal clear on everything.
I have. When you're done, I have the slide for the visual pulled up. If you'd like to focus on that.
Okay, what slide?
Slide 17 or 13. Sorry.
It's not showing.
It's really. Oh, is it not? But yeah, with the sleep cycles, it's really important to have a visual, just because it kind of like shows brain activity on a graph.
If I refresh, do you think it would be okay?
Possibly. Try it.
All right, let's see. Let's hope. Oop, did it? Okay, so I'm gonna have to start from the beginning. That's cool.
Sorry for all the technical issues today. First crowdcast now.
Sorry for like me and my annoying voice and my coffee. I'm really sorry. I was fine all day. I don't expect that to happen.
Oh, don't apologize for being sick.
Okay, so from
do you see it?
It should show up now. I'm going to that slide.
Okay.
Slide 13.
Great. So this is a really good visual for the and parts of the brain. Oh yeah. That was my least favorite unit, like the physical anatomy.
That was my favorite.
Anything to do with the anatomy. Really?
Yes, I like the anatomy parts. Are there any parts in particular, like hippocampus or like cerebellum, or any parts that you're like confused about in general? Like any certain parts, or just because there are a couple of different parts that we could talk about. So
yeah, let's start with talking about sleep, though.
Yeah.
So just starting off, we have the 4 stages, which is not counting awake. And it's like so you have the hours of sleep at the bottom. Should be getting around 8 hours unless you're growing and developing. Most of us are probably getting around 9 or 10. At least we should be.
9 to 10 hours.
It's not realistic for AP students.
That's funny. Sorry, I said 9 to 10. That's funny. I get like 5, 4, 5.
Yep. So the peaks are labeled as REM, with the exception of the awake, because REM does not occur when you're awake, since it's not part of the sleep cycle. So the highest levels of activity are during these REM peaks, which are like 2 hours in, 4 hours in, like 5 to 6, just anywhere in that area, and then like the 6 to 7 area. And there are people who actually time their sleep cycles. It's extremely interesting to see. But people time their sleep cycles to minimize all the time wasted. And
just like I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was put to like not pop quiz, but like a pop question. So since we're talking about sleep, does anybody know what device could be used to track sleep, like on a person, like a medical device?
Taking it back to the other one.
There you go, EEG. I just want to make sure you guys,
electroencephalogram. It's quite a mouthful.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, hang on. My screen is lagging a little. What's the question? I can't see. I'm sorry.
Which question? There's a question in the tab. Oh, in the chat. Oh, someone asked, are delta waves the highest activity or wave?
Yes. They're like at an extremely high frequency, which is kind of shown. Oh, sorry. My screen is just blurring out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure why. But yeah, in stage 1, as it says, like low voltage, and then mixed frequency, which voltage, frequency are really important key terms to know for sleep. Oh, you have like a little highlighter.
Yeah, the laser.
Yeah. Like sleep spindles complex in stage 2, and then in stage 3 the waves mostly slow down, and then in stage 4 they're extremely slow. And like the depth of sleep can be observed by the peaks and the peaks and the valleys in the graph. You don't have to have this memorized, you should just generally know a little bit about each sleep cycle. You don't have to draw the graph again, obviously.
As long as, like, if you can identify that this is a sleep cycle graph, then you're good. You saw it. You know the different stages, what happens. You're good.
Yeah. And just be able to identify like REM sleep versus non-REM.
Yeah.
And what the frequency means, etc. And we can go back to some frequently asked questions if we don't have anything else in the tab.
All right, so I think someone said they wanted to go over parts of the brain, but I don't think they mentioned the specific parts that we went through.
Just learning like 1 through 4 should be fine. I didn't see it referred to as NREM and REM like 1 to 3 on the test. You should just be able to identify like what NREM is, what REM is, and then the different stages of sleep and how they impact.
And it's always funny because like during the AP test, like there are some sections that what parts of the brain are, sorry, I got trailed, but I'm going to answer your question because I was just adding on to that. But you say, what parts of the brain are most important to know? Well, really all of them, because you never know. On the AP test, it may be like, okay, well, we're going to give hippocampus and cerebellum today. Or then we're going to be like, oh, no, we're going to talk about Broca's area or Wernicke's area. So to make sure, it's good to make sure you know all of them, because you never know what's going to show up on the AP test. So,
but if we had to pick some terms, though, what would you think? I would just definitely mark down like the different lobes.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the temporal lobe and frontal. Make sure you know all the different lobes. That's very key. And the certain part that's mentioned a lot has to do with like memories, like the hippocampus would be questions, because they might ask a scenario question, like if Mary can't remember or something, what part of the brain. That's the type of questions that are asked on the multiple choice and FRQ. So, but really all of them. But
yeah. And the amygdala, though.
Oh yeah,
one more that's really important: the amygdala and the emotional control from that.
That's true. How did you feel about the FRQs? Were they hard, drastically worded differently? Okay, so they weren't drastically worded differently for me, because on my tests at my school, my teacher would give us FRQs basically, and he would word them similarly to the AP test. So we were kind of prepared for the wording and the style. But were they hard? I mean, once again, I had studied and I was prepared for the exam, so they weren't too challenging for me. But like I mentioned earlier, there are some terms that will sneak up on you. Because there was one term on there, like on the FRQ, and I was like, wait a minute, I know that it was like the last 5 minutes that I had left that I remembered it. So, which was good.
Just some very obscure term.
Yeah, so make sure. So what I did is, so I went and I bought like flashcards, AP Psychology flashcards, like 500 cards, and like I just went through them. Like I broke them up in sections. And I just quizzed myself on the flashcards just to make sure I knew every concept, every term. Because I like memory, like flashcards, repetition helps me a lot. And also, I know there's some apps that do like spaced repetition memory, which is like they give you some flashcards and you answer them, and the ones that you get right, they don't ask you them anymore. And the ones that you don't get right, they drill you on them. It's called like spaced repetition. If you have like Anki cards too, something like that. But that's why. But so no, the FRQs weren't hard because of that reason, because I was prepared. So if you prepare as well, you will it won't be hard.
Yeah, and one of the best things that you can do is just go over either old pre-response questions or pre-response questions in practice books. Just take practice tests like as much as you possibly can. For me, they weren't drastically worded differently just because I didn't take the class itself. I just self-studied it on my own, so it was just practice test after practice test. If you do that, though, you should be really familiar. Let's see.
Same. That's true. Quizlet. I love Quizlet. Quizlet. I can't even speak. Yes, Quizlet was amazing for a lot of classes with terms and vocab. It's a great resource. How many FRQs are there? 2, right? There are 2, right, Emily? I'm pretty sure. Yes, yeah. 2. And they have 7 parts each. But there's 2. So it may be a graph. It may be a graph. It may be a scenario. Like, I don't know if you guys were here for the stream 2 streams ago, or the stream with me where I streamed. What did I stream last time? It was about, we did an FRQ practice, Unit 2 FRQ practice, if anybody was there. So, and it had, also did the FRQ 1, and it had graph. It was a graph. So it could be a graph, scenario, anything like that. So make sure you know how to do.
There's almost always a visual.
Yes, and I would definitely look up practice tests online. They're like everywhere, like release practice tests, exams from College Board. So those are gonna be the most accurate. I mean, prep books are fine, but getting them from College Board is the best because they make the tests, so their version is gonna be more accurate to the real test than any other test prep company.
There are less of them around though. Oh, we have a lot of questions. Let's see. So, what exactly is the job of the thalamus? So it has several functions, but the main one is to like relay the motor and sensory signals to the cerebral cortex, which is another huge part of what you need to know for the brain. But yeah, the thalamus is the messenger of motor sensory signals to that part of the brain. We have a lot of questions.
If you are a 500+ member, there's actually if you have access to past streams, so you can stream the past stream that we have from the psychology team. We did an FRQ. We did 2 FRQ practices so far, and those are on the website. If you're a 500+ member, which I think is like $5 a month. So I think if you're a member of that, you can access the past streams. And we
also go ahead.
I'm sorry, that's fine. I was done.
Oh, we also have another FRQ stream that's occurring on the 29th at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, so those are really nice to
go.
Yeah. Practice on the FRQ.
Can we go over how psychoactive drugs affect neurons or synapses? Yeah, we can do that for sure. We've actually gone over neurotransmitters in the past. I'll see if I can pull up. I'll see if I can pull up the previous stream and just take some of the visuals from there, since that'll be really helpful. Let's see. My psych teacher's goal is to just make us remember all 800 terms for the course by the end of the year, and all we do is watch old VHR videos called Discovering Psychology and do class surveys, studies, data collections. Don't even use the book. Is he teaching AP Psych right? Should I study more on my own? I really want to cop that 5. Ooh, yeah, I would say to study more on your own.
Yeah, that teaching strategy is very different from my teacher. My teacher did we did lectures. He did a lecture, and we actually did labs because psychology is a science, it's social science. So you can actually do experiments and stuff, which is cool. So we can see how concepts were applied and stuff. So we actually did do labs and watching old VHR, wow. Wow.
No.
In-class survey studies.
I can see that being helpful for like visual and auditory learners, but that's not very accommodating for people who like reading.
But you say you don't use the textbook. I would definitely use the textbook.
Yeah, for sure.
The textbook is definitely your best resource. Because at my school, we read the whole textbook. So what we did, we had a textbook, and each week we would have a quiz. It was open note, though, but we would have a quiz on different sections of the book, and we finished the whole book before the AP test. But it wasn't that huge of a book. But Yeah. Do you use the AMSCO textbook? I'm just curious. That was the textbook that we used. It wasn't that big.
Oh, and I would definitely say study more on your own. Maybe think about picking up a review book as well.
Yeah, because you already seem like you have doubts. So if you have doubts, you're probably not, you want to just make sure that Myers 9E. Yeah, I didn't use that textbook.
I've never used Myers either.
Yeah, I used AMSCO.
But yeah, no, definitely study more on your own. It sounds like your teacher isn't being extremely interactive with the teaching, which is a big part to remembering the content.
Yeah.
And he's not incorporating a bunch of different methods. Like, you're not reading the textbook, you're not writing. You're not really getting that deeper connection just because you're watching the video, you're hearing it. That's about it. Oh yeah, Myers is a popular textbook.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. I've never used Myers. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Oh, no problem.
Oh, we can talk about the psychoactive drugs now, and on the neurons and synapses.
Okay.
Did you like talking about the biological stuff?
Me?
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you say?
Oh, don't worry.
Okay.
I said, do you want to go over the biological stuff?
I'd like to put. Can you? I don't know if I leave this, will the screen disappear? Because I was gonna put up an image, but I don't know if I can do that.
I don't think it will.
Okay. If you want to, may you actually put up an image?
Oh yeah, I can do that.
So while we answer that question, I'll just actually go over some other frequently asked questions before we get the image. So how did I prepare? I think I answered this earlier. How did I prepare? A repetition, flashcards, practice questions, practice tests, practice FRQs, videos, YouTube videos, asking teacher questions. That's basically how I prepared. And going to class every day, or going to class on time, paying attention in class, taking notes in class. That's how I prepared.
Yeah, which YouTube videos did you use? That's a good question.
I would just like, if it was like a topic or anything I was uncertain of, I would just type it in on YouTube. Yeah, Crash Course has really great videos.
For good things.
And also, I would just search on YouTube like AP Psychology review, like the whole year review. It would be like an hour-long video or maybe 2 hours. I would just watch it like over the course of a week to make sure like the summary of the whole course of the whole course. That helped a lot too, to make sure I wasn't missing out on anything. And also, how to prepare, I got prep books. So I bought a prep book. I didn't use the prep book for the practice questions, practice FRQs, because I used the Release College Board multiple choice because they're more accurate. So I only use the prep books for the content, just to make sure I knew all the topics and everything for the test. So that's really helpful. Or you can use your textbook as well. But I just bought an AP prep book, AP Psychology prep book. That's how I prepared.
Which prep book did you buy?
I think it was Princeton's. Princeton test.
And if you're considering buying a prep book, there's also like a few different factors to consider. I think the main three are like 5 steps, Princeton Review, Barron's. Barron's and Princeton Review are really good for people who like more in-depth content. Would you agree, as someone who used Princeton's?
Yeah, Princeton's, they cover the content very well. But the questions are multiple choice questions are okay, but they have really good content-wise. And also, you don't need to go buy a brand new book. I think my book was used, because if the test doesn't change that often, a 2018 book is totally okay. A 2017 is fine because it's the same content. But sometimes tests go through changes. Like I know the AP World recently went through a few changes. So the older textbooks. So the older textbooks are not going to be that helpful anymore. I mean, the older prep books are not going to be helpful. But for psychology, it hasn't changed in like years. So using an older prep book is totally fine, just to save a few dollars. That's what I did, because I bought an old book.
Yeah, and it's always better as well to just keep your options open, but make sure to focus on the old, like the newer free response questions. It might have not have changed that much, but they're going to be a lot better developed and just formatted overall for the more modern test. Let's see. Do you want to go over neurotransmitters, since we're like talking about psychoactive drugs?
Question.
Oh, can you clean out the questions tab a little bit?
Sure. Do you want me to just delete them?
Huh?
You said delete them, but what do you mean?
Just the like free response one and the Thalamus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But in the meantime, like talking about neurotransmitters would be a really good start. So with neurotransmitters, it ties into the psychoactive drugs and all of that, because the psychoactive drugs can either be antagonists or antagonists, which can either positively or negatively affect the ability of neurotransmitters to go into the synapses and the receptors. Overall, like antidepressants are great. Like the purpose of antidepressants are the biological, like biochem approach to that would be that the antidepressants work to increase several neurotransmitters. Specifically, like serotonin is a big one that's targeted. Like you might have heard SSRI, which is like a serotonin reintake. Sorry, I can't speak. My throat just hurts a little. But yeah, no, the here, I'm gonna pull up a visual if you'd like to answer another question. This is another one that's really hard to explain without having the visual in front of you.
All right, cool. So I'll go over some other questions. All right, so is it really necessary to read the textbook? Yes,
Definitely.
If you don't read the textbook, you're not going to have an understanding of what happened throughout the unit. So you can't, going to class, sure, will help, but the textbook just lays it all out. So yes, please read your textbook. That's if you want to score well on the AP test. If you're just interested in the content, you're not trying to get a high score on the test, then, but still, reading is nice because you know more. So overall, yes.
And it's just overall like a very good way to reinforce the content. You get a deeper understanding by doing it like that, instead of just the shallow. Because with that, a lot of the times it promotes recollection over recognition, which is a pretty important concept to understand as well. But it's also important to work on how you learn. With recognition, that's just multiple choice questions, Quizlet. It's not that deeper understanding that you get from writing stuff out, reading the textbook, etc. That gets you the recollection, which is just more of the free response skill. And if you want to...
So that's the best way. Just use a combination of things, like reading textbook, going to class, taking notes, watching videos if you're not sure, asking teacher, like not just
practice
one thing.
Tests.
To be successful, yeah, practice tests. Not just one thing. You gotta do a combination of things to be successful. And okay, so what are some good memorization tips and tricks? What type of things do you guys use memorization? I know you're using Quizlet, which is like flashcards, and they have other things too on Quizlet now, like mini quizzes and stuff. And I think they have, like, someone said they have spaced repetition. So what are some things that you guys use?
I know acronyms are a really good one.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'm not sure if you guys have gotten to that part, but the big 5 personality traits, a good acronym to remember is OCEAN.
OCEAN, yeah.
Yeah, like openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and then neuroticism. OCEAN is just a really good acronym to remember. And there's plenty of other acronyms, but that's just a really notable one that you should definitely know for the test. We have a lot of answers saying mnemonic devices.
No, yeah,
what are some of the mnemonic devices that you guys use?
Okay, so let me see. Next question. Okay, so when studying for an AP psychology exam, do you just review vocab? No.
Vocab is a big part, but no, you need to know the concepts as well, which a lot of concepts can be defined in vocabulary, but you don't, once again, get that deeper understanding from the, like, drawings and the models, etc. Watching the videos from the experiments.
Exactly. Because the AP test is not going to say, the multiple choice on the AP exam is not going to be like, okay, well, define this term as a multiple choice question. No, they're going to use the term in a scenario or a situation, or somehow you're going to have to identify and make sure you actually know the meaning and understanding, just without putting out just a simple definition, can actually apply it. Especially on the FRQ, that is huge. You have to be able to apply the terms and the vocabulary and not just say what it is. So just having that skill to being able to know the vocab, to apply it, to know your theories and concepts is what you need to do when you're studying for the exam, not just vocabulary.
Yeah, and then once again, like, I've just blanked.
It's okay.
Oh, let's see. Socks pulled over cold feet for the stages. Oh, that's a good one. Sensor modal, conventional. Conventional, formal. Oh yeah. I've never heard that one before, actually.
Yeah, me
Socks pulled over cold feet.
Yeah, and once again, like, the level of work you put into studying whatever just depends on what score you want to get or what you want to get out of the class. So everything you put in, you get out, basically. So just remember that when studying and everything. Because I know some people would be like, "Oh man, I thought I would have done so much better on the AP test." Well, what did you put in? How long did you study? When did you start?
Yeah.
Did you start a week before the test? So yeah, that makes a difference. I know when I was a freshman in high school, I didn't know much about AP tests, and I tried to study for one right before the test. I thought it'd be like any other test where you can just just take it and like just know some things, but no, it was so much information. So yeah, I did not do well freshman year taking that AP test. So then sophomore year and on, I was like, okay, I gotta start studying and making sure I know. So don't be like me freshman year. That was bad. Yeah. Okay.
We have the visual for the neurotransmitters on slide 14.
Okay.
And if it doesn't work, then you should be able to. Oh, is it there?
I do not have to refresh again.
Okay. But yeah, no, mnemonic devices are your friend. And then, once again, free response question, that's worth, like, those are worth 33% of your total AP score. And you're not going to have recognition to bail you out, though. You really need to work on your recall for that. And mindlessly flipping through Quizlets isn't going to help with that. You really need to, once again, use the textbook, take practice tests, ask questions, just get your hands in and like get super interactive to get that deeper understanding.
Yeah, because there are no half points on the FRQ. You either get the whole point or you don't. So if you don't do one part, if you don't apply the term and just define it, you're not going to get the point for that. So you already hurt yourself there. There's no half credit. Okay.
Okay, so here's a pretty good idea of how the neurotransmitters and the like synapses work. So in this, we have the kind of look like little pencil sharpeners on the right, like poking out of the blue, blue area. Those are the receptors. They are receiving the neurotransmitters that are coming like from the vesicles and then being transported through the transporters. There's 8 different neurotransmitters that you should know. Off the top of my head, like some of the most important ones are dopamine. GABA and glutamate are important, but they're a little bit more complex. See, dopamine, serotonin, ACH. Those are all like 3 really important ones. If you had to know any of them, I would definitely recommend knowing those.
Oh yes, they come up with the test. Those they come up with the
Oh yeah.
test. All right, so I think there's any more questions in the question tab. No more questions in the tab. Okay, so I guess we'll just finish the FRQs. I mean the FAQs then. So does that clear up who asked that question? Nick, does that help? Did that clear everything up for you, Nick? If you're still here, I'm not sure.
That's more about the neurotransmitters. So if it's not quite as like focused on the psychoactive drugs as you'd like, then you can definitely correct that. This is just like the fundamental structure.
Okay, so I go back to the FAQ part until if you mention something. Until then, I'm just gonna go back to the frequently asked questions. I think I was on the next page. Yep. So we went through that. Okay, so we went through that one. Okay, I think we're almost done. So what is the best way to study for tests? We definitely covered this a lot, but I'm just gonna sum it up in a few words. Flashcards, concept practice, reading the textbook, asking your teacher questions, showing up to class, being and just not being in class, but actually listening.
Engaged.
Yeah, being an engaged learner in class. All those things will help you on the test. Cause there have been times where I've taken a test and I've studied, but if there's like one term or something that I don't really remember that well, then I think back to in class when I learned it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I remember that from class. Like, oh, it was I actually remember the exact thing. Trephination. Do you guys know what that is? What trephination is? So in my class, we would get like study guides and study aids to help with the test, but I wasn't on the study guide or study aid. And I was like, and that was a question on the test, and I couldn't really remember it, what it was in the moment. But then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, we did that in class because he did this whole example about it. So being an engaged learner, it's actually really beneficial. You should score well on your tests in class as well, because just being able to think back to that time in class when you learned that to answer on the test. But that's just a personal example of how it happened for me, because I was like, oh yeah, I remember that now.
And then just another thing is that if you don't understand a concept, don't just brush it under the rug or save it for like a last minute cram. Like really prioritize that and don't spend time, talked about this earlier, but once again reiterating, don't spend time learning concepts you already know. Take those concepts that you don't know that well or that you're struggling with, ask questions, just apply all of the skills that we just talked about, and just strengthen your weaknesses overall by focusing on them. That's a really good way.
That's very good advice, because just studying what you already know, it's not going to help you do any better. You already know it. Move on. I mean, you still want to refresh yourself, so do that last. But drill yourself on things that you don't know. There's absolutely no point. Okay, so cool. And then I think we have one more bullet, which is, what is the most challenging part of FRQs? Definitely, probably the most challenging part. Actually, you might have a different answer than me on this one, Emily, but I'm actually going to say the define part, because the applying part is easy, because if you know the definition, you can apply it basically to know how to apply it. But if you don't even know the definition in the beginning, you can't do anything. So, but that's what I'm saying. Make sure you drill yourself on knowing all the vocab, because you don't want a word to sneak up on you and be like, I've heard of it, but now I can't remember it. So yeah, I want to say that part. But also the applying part can be tricky too, because sometimes you're like, how can I know what the word means, but how can I apply it to the situation? And I did a whole stream about that. FRQ. I think it was FRQ number 2. If you're a 500 plus member, you can access that stream. And I went over how to apply a term or a definition or concept. So yeah, I mean, it depends on either or, but definitely if you don't know the definition, you can't do anything. So that'll be challenging. But another challenging part I would say is time, because I'm a very wordy person, and so it's not an essay. Remember that. You just want to be right to the point, but sometimes I could be a little extra. So I guess just make sure I'm allotting enough time to answer all the parts. Could be challenging if you're like me and you're kind of slow test taker. So time too.
That's a hard question, though. I'd say the hardest part for me is just recalling the information and like really focusing in on it, because there's so many terms that go like hand in hand, but they're not what the question is asking about. So it's like, oh, do I want to put this down? Do I want to mention this? I know it's correlated, but it's not quite the answer. Should I put this down? And a lot of the time with social sciences, don't abuse this, but you can put down words and you're more likely to score points on the free response question just by putting down. It's true. It's like with the social sciences, you can get away with it. If you put down. Yeah, definitely learn the content, but if you're panicking in the moment, like, just start writing down, even in the margins, before, like, to draft out, just terms that are related to the main idea. We were talking earlier about these, like, note-taking strategies. You could do, like, a little mind map to draft your essay. You have this one idea and then branching it off. Yeah, definitely not panicking is the hardest part.
And make sure you check your work, because I think when I took the AP test, I was so panicked because there's like they give you multiple pages to answer, even though you only need like a few. And I think I skipped a page, so I had like a whole blank page. So I didn't start writing on the first page. I started like on like the last page. I didn't realize there were so many pages. So make sure you just, even though you might have nerves, make sure you like stay calm and collect it, and try to make sure you answer all the questions. Don't forget one, because that'll be a point off, and that'll affect your score maybe. So definitely just try to stay collected and go through each part and check your work when you are, even if you have time left, don't take a nap. Just make sure you have everything taken care of, everything answered. Then you can take a nap if you feel like it. But yeah.
And then.
Sorry.
Oh no, you were talking.
Okay, well, I just want to say one more thing. Also about like when I said the challenging part about the time, wear a watch. College board allows you to wear a watch during the AP test as long as it doesn't make a noise or have like a ringer or anything. So wear a watch. I wore a watch, so helpful. It let me know how much time I had left for the section, so I know how to pace, so I wouldn't be freaked out not knowing, because some proctors will be like, okay, 5 minutes left. They don't do it in increments. They'll just tell you when you have like 5 minutes. So
I don't think they're supposed to do increments besides like maybe 10-minute warning, 5-minute warning, etc.
I don't think they are. I know some tests people will have like timers, but I don't know if they're.
I know that they have like a script that it has like the break, like not the breaks, but the script has the warnings built in.
Oh, okay, that's probably why. But so wear a watch then, so you can have your own personal time. Definitely, that's what I do for all my tests. So wear a watch because it's allowed.
Oh, sorry.
I was done. It's fine. I was done.
Just going back a little bit on the idea of not panicking. This is more so after you take the exam. I know that the months afterwards can be agony just waiting for your scores to get back. And if you're like me, it probably won't help, but it's just really important to bring yourself back to the moment and realize there's nothing you can do about your test scores after you're done taking the exam. Like, the exam has been submitted, it's sent back to the college board, it's already being graded. And there's nothing that you can do to change that. And worrying won't make that better, it'll just make it worse for yourself in the end, and your score will be the exact same as if you didn't worry.
That's true. That's good advice. I like that.
Like, I don't know who needs to hear this. Definitely me.
Especially not going to change it. So yeah, I mean, I think we're at our conclusion now. Does anybody have any last words, last questions, or any last statement they want to say before we end the stream? I just want to thank you all again for participating. It was nice to have so many people here today to talk to. It was fun.
Yeah, we had some good.
I hope you guys enjoyed the stream too. It was a good stream.
Yeah, and thank you guys for fueling such a good conversation as well. A lot of stuff to go over, but hopefully we helped clear some things up. And if not, you can always reach out to us and we can clear it up a little bit more, like one-on-one. Sometimes it's easier typed out.
Yeah, exactly. And make sure you keep an eye out on all the future streams coming up. Nina says thanks, Nina, for being here today, and you have a great evening as well. And for everyone else, thank you. And have a great rest of the night, guys. Bye. See you later.
Thanks, you everyone.
Thanks.